in the clip we saw a pretty intense Sookie-Eric moment. One question I get a lot is people are curious, and Alan, you may want to jump in on this, whether her attraction for Eric is simply based on the fact that she ingested his blood, or is there...
It's much more than that.
Please elaborate.
That was all I wanted to say.
Alan, do you want to take that?
Well, I think definitely the blood is a big part of it, but I also think that during the whole sequence where Godric met the son, Sookie saw a side of Eric that no one else has seen, and saw him at a really vulnerable moment. So I think that's the question for her, is how much is the blood and how much is something else, right?
Yeah.
Anna and Eric, I'm curious, what do you think the draw is for the two of you, Alex, as a couple? It's like, it seems like the rooting interest would be, Bill and Sookie, and there is a strong rooting interest, but there's a lot of people out there who want Eric and Sookie together.
Well, I don't know. I can only speak for my character why Eric is intrigued by Sookie, and I think that has to do with he's very old. He's been around for 1,000 years, and I think he's kind of over humans in general. He finds they're kind of naive and stupid and not very interesting. But there is something different about Sookie, and
although she's quite naive.
she is quite naive, but there's something different about her, and he can't really put his finger on what it is, and I think that's very intriguing, and he really wants to pursue that and figure out what she is. She is different, and I also think at the beginning he kind of enjoys the game with Bill. It's fun because he notices, that Bill is very protective here, and it's kind of fun for Eric to play around with that, but the connection or the attraction is definitely deeper than that. It's just not a game for Eric anymore, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Alan, it's safe to say this season that triangle kind of moves to the forefront in a major way.
It's definitely there. The triangle is definitely, there's a lot of tension and questions surrounding that triangulation of affections.
Stephen, talk to me about Sookie. And when did you first realize that you had sort of stumbled onto something kind of huge and national phenomenon kind of thing? I mean, I can't tell you how many people in our office at EW alone refer to each other as Sookie.
I think that I've said this before, but there's a number of people who have named like their dogs Bill and Sookie, and I have been in 3 separate dog parks where I've actually been asked to call Sookie. And it is true, and I don't know, I mean, I just pronounced it in the way that I was told to pronounce it. When we all started talking about her name, it's Sookie as in cookie. And so, that was one of Charlene's pass downs, wasn't it, Alan? Mm-hmm. So, it just became this thing, and there are a number of children as well.
I was going to say, apparently it's like one of the fastest rising
children's names as well.
Wow.
And I'm really excited for those kids to grow up and ask Mommy and Daddy exactly why. Where's the source material for my name?
Well, you can watch it in 10 years.
Stephen, when I met you for the first time, one of the things that was so surprising is you're such sort of a lighthearted, funny guy, and it was just shocking.
Dark and mysterious.
And did you ever just want Bill to lighten up a little bit?
I think that we do see elements of that. But he is so caught up in the world that he was from that it's that kind of old-fashioned courtly manner that he's had, that he's tried to keep from his humanity, and I think that maybe somewhere down the line we'll see him have to change because he doesn't fit into the world anymore that he's inhabiting. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I maybe season 24 we'll be doing show tunes.
The musical episode. Come on, it's coming.
Just because Buffy did it.
Deborah, you are playing one of the only characters that is from Alan's mind, not from the book. I wanted to talk to both of you about the creation of this character. How much of it is on paper? How much is it about what Deborah is bringing to the role? Alan, do you want to start?
Well, it's not just from my mind. I work with 5 other writers, and a lot of times things get attributed to me just because I'm sort of the face of the writers of the show. But it's definitely a collaborative thing. We basically just wrote a character. We figured when Bill went in front of the magistrate what would be the worst punishment for him, and it would be that he had to make a vampire. And then we said, well, it should be somebody who is the least likely vampire possible, and we came up with this sort of homeschooled girl. And Deborah just kind of blossomed in the role, and I think it's kind of a mixture of the script and the performer that sort of, it just is one of those great fits.
Well, it was a really good opportunity, I think, with a young vampire to talk about the mythos of this world that they've created and that Charlene created, that by firsthand experience, instead of talking about it, we can actually show what vampires go through their first transformation. So I don't know, I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fun in season 3 where there's things about being a vampire that she just doesn't know.
Yeah.
And Bill didn't get a chance to tell her before he got kidnapped. So she's making a lot of mistakes.
And how do you feel, Deborah, how do you feel Jessica has evolved since the first season?
I think
Season 2.
I think I've had to grow up very quickly. I think a lot of trauma and difficulty was thrown very strongly right up in front. That's not a sentence. That there was this excitement to be a vampire at first without realizing the full scope of what that meant, and then slowly being presented these different challenges that maybe in the same way that going from a girl to a woman is difficult, coming from a human to a vampire can be difficult.
Alex, you originally auditioned for the role of Bill. That is true, correct?
I was dying to get that part.
Why?
It's amazing. That's why I'm so bitter today.
But
I could have been the one that said, Suki.
you can do it very well.
Yeah, this was, when was this? I met with Alan
Way back before the pilot. Yeah.
like the early 90s.
The early 1800s.
Yeah. And there wasn't a script out, and I think you weren't casting Eric at that time, right?
No, but I knew that Eric would eventually show up.
Yeah, so, no, I had a meeting with Alan and just had those like 4 pages and read the scene, and then didn't hear anything, got another job in Africa of all places, and then I got a phone call when I was in Maputo in Mozambique, and saying like, do you remember this meeting with Alan Ball like 45 years ago? Well, actually, it's happening now, and they want to know if you're available. Not for Bill, but for a Viking vampire. And I was like, all right, well, and I wasn't available. It was supposed to, because we were supposed to shoot that, because I come in episode 4, they already shot the first 2 or 3 episodes, right?
Right, but then there was the strike, which...
And that's what's kind of saved me, because when they contacted me, this was like October of '07, I still had another 2 months on Generation Kill that I was working on in Africa on. So I was, my agent said, well, sorry, but Alex is not going to be available. And so I was like, well, that's a bummer, I was pretty excited about the project, but I guess I won't be able to do it now. And then the writer's strike happened, and everything got pushed another 3 months. So I was very lucky. I was able to finish off Generation Kill, come back to LA, and then do that.